I don't understand. But
What?
for some reason, we're banning books now. Books that make a lot of sense for us to read because of the current fucking climate of our society.
As long as they're not burning them, don't burn them. At least, right?
Welcome back to the Gentleman's Sit Down. We are an untraditional podcast.
Trying to be traditional, gentlemen.
I'm Satirius D. Lemitius.
And I am Joshua Callahan.
Links in the descriptions for the social medias down below. I suggest you click them because, come on. You don't want to know us more? Come on, get to know us. No, I don't know.
Don't ban this podcast.
Yeah, there's
Click it, like it.
Yeah, there's a like button, there's a dislike button, there's a comment section, there's a share button, there's a subscribe button. So, we're gathered here today.
On this solemn occasion.
Yeah, it's a very solemn occasion.
I'm wearing a professorial sweater for the occasion.
Yes.
I want to be respected
Yes.
in this moment
Yeah.
for my opinions. Because what are we talking about?
I'm talking about banned books.
What? What do you mean banned books? What does that even mean?
So what's going on is in
Banning books?
yeah, it's ridiculous. In the educational system right now, they're banning books.
Wait. Where they learn from books?
Yeah.
They're burning books.
They're
banning books. They're
banning.
not burning.
They're
Thank
not
the
burning.
Jesus.
Yeah, thank God we ain't in that time because that happened in the Middle Ages.
Oh, well,
and
we can't burn them?
multiple times.
Okay, we're not burning. Okay, well, we'll just ban them.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So you know what? I'm just gonna read it.
Banned by who? Like, I want to.
I don't know. It's some
let's talk
fucking
about the
board of
banned books.
education or something.
We're banning it from schools. That's
banning
what
it
the
from
idea. Let's
schools.
just
They're
say,
banning it to teach it in schools.
so somebody read the book, or did they just read the title? Did they judge it by its cover? Did they read the in flap that kind of explained it? What? So you're telling me somebody read the book and said, nope, banning it.
Yes, they banned them from being taught in schools.
Who?
I don't know. Some board of education stunad idiots.
Teachers?
Let me tell you something, all right? Let me just
They're not
read.
teachers.
Just read some of the books that I got shocked. I read.
Oh my God.
Okay, that I read in school that taught me great lessons, and they've prepared me for the fucking ridiculousness of this current society.
And what do they do? What do books do?
They educate.
They educate, but they also, I would argue, create a context for when they were written.
Exactly.
A context from when you look at a fresco that's on some ancient wall from way back when.
Yeah.
You look at it and you say, what is that? You research, you look at it, and it's from that time period, that day, that they're reacting to something that happened in their life and they're graving it. Books are an engraving of the mind at the time that it was written for that moment, so it could live on for the next people to go, oh, this happened back then?
They have great wisdom and lessons in them. They can help prepare you to have a better today.
So history doesn't repeat itself.
Exactly.
Too late.
Let me tell you something.
Already happened.
Yeah. Banning books. I mean, the word sounds similar to burning books. You might as well burn them. You think these kids are going to know what these books are if they don't read them in school? You stupid stunads, you freaking jackabos. Anyway.
Jack-a-moles?
Yeah, jackabos.
I want to whack 'em
Yeah,
all.
exactly.
Right
let me
on the head.
let me list off some of the books that I'm
Tell me,
shocked they banned.
Now, these are a list of constantly banned books, and because they ban
these
them
are
in different
books that are
areas,
currently
different people,
banned.
currently
Banned
from schools
in
to be
certain
read in
schools, if not all schools.
So they're saying to the students, don't read these books.
Well, basically, they're just not in the educational system right now, okay? You go to, like let's, for example, and when I was a sophomore in high school, I read Death of a Salesman. Well, now sophomores in high schools don't want you to read certain books that you read in sophomore high school.
Death of a Salesman on there?
Death of a Salesman's not on this list, but I'll tell you what is on the list that I read in sophomore year of high school. The Great Gatsby.
What?
Why the fuck are we not reading that? What's the matter with you people? I'm not going to
Scott Fitzgerald's?
Yeah.
Magnum opus?
Yeah. What's going on here?
Robert Redford? We can't read about Robert Redford and Leo DiCaprio, who played that guy?
What about Great Gatsby needs it to be banned in school? It
Martinis.
It teaches you the flaw of obsessive love. Okay, it teaches you. It creates
excess.
Of excess. It teaches you how industrialization is not pretty. There's flaws. Okay, let me teach you another one. Lord of the Flies.
What? That doesn't make any sense. I read that book. It's lovely.
Lord of the Flies?
Lord of the Flies. Not lovely and like I want to reread it over again, but I think every kid should read it.
Yes.
Because you know why?
Yeah.
Because they act up when they get together and they go out together in the groups, the kids, they act like Lord of the Flies. And
Exactly.
they go, what's that?
They act like Lord of the Flies.
because they didn't read the book.
Exactly. They can't learn from the consequences of these freaking kids in the book. They have dire consequences.
But what if kids were left to their own devices? They try to create society as kids through their lens and what they understand. They create prisons on the beach and the stuff, and they have like power struggles and
it results in death.
Yes, and it results in death, and they eventually kill, and then that wakes them up because they're trying to emulate what their adults do. It's a great massive juxtaposition of what is the next generation gonna be like, or what is possible when they're left to their devices.
It tells you, it tells you the effect of adults on children, and it tells you how children can be led astray if they govern themselves. They could repeat history without even knowing they're repeating history. Because human beings are innately flawed, and we need to learn from our flaws to be better. Boom. Of Mice and Men.
That doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't make any sense.
Steinbeck
talks about the flaws of our society and how we wrongly judge people with disabilities.
Judging the book by its cover.
Exactly, and how we can't properly take care of a sweet, innocent man who harms things because he doesn't know any better because he has a fucking disability.
And guess what? There are people who don't even... It talks about mental illness and how it was reacted to at that time that it was written.
Exactly.
But guess what? Guess what? It's still happening.
It's still
the way
happening.
We treat people who with mental illness.
Yes.
It's ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
Look at the flowers. Look at the flower. Go. Yeah. Watch the bunny. What does he do when he kills him? Spoiler alert. He tells him to watch the flowers, right?
Something like that.
Look. And he shoots him in the back of the head.
Tells him, yeah, I know. He tells him to look out over and to keep imagining the dream home we're gonna buy, buddy. You know, think about the rabbits that you're gonna take to. Think about the rabbits. Yeah.
It was the rabbits.
Yeah, you thinking about it, Lenny? Boom!
Right in the back of the head.
The Outsiders. How the fuck you banning the Outsiders? What, because they're gang related? It's all gangs?
Yeah, that's why they're afraid. Oh, it's going to teach them how to become gangs.
Yeah.
What West Side Story, huh? What about all those things? You're going to ban them too?
Yeah, they probably did ban it.
Ridiculous.
Wait, did they ban it? It's not on my
One
list.
of the #1 movies last year was West Side Story, and it's about gangs and stuff.
Yeah, ridiculous. You banning the Outsiders for? What's the matter with you?
I never read the book. I did see the movie. A lot of good-looking actors who were in the movie.
It teaches you about brotherhood. Teaches you about taking care of your family. Teaches you about what happens when you let personal vendettas go too far.
And what really matters. So they're talking about their popularity and the group mind. Like when the group gets together, when these kids join forces, what do? They become a gang to protect themselves because they feel if they're by themselves, they're vulnerable, right?
Exactly.
But when the two kind of run and they have to hide, they let themselves become vulnerable and they save the kids in the fire. Spoilers.
Boom. The Diary of Anne Frank.
Get out of here with that. I don't even believe you.
That's what it's banned.
I don't believe you just made that up.
It's on the list.
You put it on there for dramatic effect.
No, it's legitimately.
Who's banning the Diary of Anne, a 12-year-old girl who hid themselves away in Nazi Germany and through all that pressure, wrote a book about it. Who banned that book? Wrote her diary.
I'm telling you, it's these jamooks.
I know, it's rhetorical.
These gabagools.
I know who's doing it.
Yeah, these freaking people. You're banning
Racists.
You're banning Anne Frank, the Diary of Anne Frank.
You're afraid about the musings of a 12-year-old child who's escaping Nazi Germany and hiding in the walls of her diary.
Yeah, you want to shelter your kids so much that you don't want them to see. Look, read this book. Read how terrible it could become. This is the flaw of society. This is why we've made our society what it is today, and it's your responsibility to continue it. It's your responsibility to continue it so that you don't have to ever suffer through it. Your children don't have to suffer through this, and your grandchildren don't ever have to suffer through this. That's the point of reading the Diary of Anne Frank, is to see how dark and horrible the world can get.
Has been. That already happened. It happened. It existed. Those people died, and horribly and unnecessarily.
Exactly.
It happened.
Exactly.
You know, you taking the books away doesn't make believe like it didn't happen. Oh, we would never do those atrocities. It's a fiction. No, it's a diary.
It's a diary. It's a real life thing.
There's a museum in the Netherlands for, she existed. You banning her book doesn't make her unexist.
Exactly. Now, last but not least, I want to talk about this one because we're fucking living in it. Okay? George Orwell's 1984 is banned. We're living in it. We're living in a society that's pretty much 1984, and you're going to ban people from reading that book? Why? Why? Because you want them to continue to be manipulated?
Yes.
Is that what you want?
Yeah.
You want them to continue to fall? You want them to not understand what's happening around them so that they think, oh, AI and, iPhones breaching into my personal information and telling me how they could advertise for me, and fucking Mark Zuckerberg and his lizard face and his Facebook little lizard company telling me what I should buy and not buy because he's fucking digging and coding through my fucking phone and looking at me and listening to my conversations. You telling me I'm not allowed to be upset about that? You telling me George Orwell didn't warn me on purpose for this?
Not you, your kids.
Exactly.
That's what you're saying. The next generation you want to teach, they're telling them they can't know about it.
Yeah.
Because they want to see how far away they can get with misinformation.
Exactly. This is ridiculous. This is an absolute atrocity on the American society to not read these books.
Any society, a lot of societies ban books because they're afraid of what it does. People are afraid to put the mirror to their own lives of what's going on. Creating a fictional account of something and exploiting what really happens, whether it be abuse, verbally, sexually, or whatever, condition of the human race and how far people go to get away with murder or whatever. And you're afraid, well, it's too explicit, or it's too much foul language. People don't talk like that anymore. People don't use the N-word, so they want to ban Mark Twain and the Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. And guess what? It's one of the best books, in terms of like the social agenda and the history of our nation, United States of America, because you're afraid of the words and the language. That's what people used back then. Why should you be afraid of a word? It's written on the page. You can close it and not look at it, but don't take it away from me. Don't take it away from our kids.
Exactly. I know what the argument is. All right, because some people think they're so smart by making this argument. Oh, well, there's nothing you could do about it anyway, so just let it happen. We might as well just ban the books and give the kids books more entertaining stuff to read. No, what are you talking about?
Give them coloring books. Let them color.
You're there to be educated. You're there to learn about things that, the point of an educator is to introduce and unveil things to the people who are trying to be educated that they never knew they could ever come across. Ways of thinking, like even when I look back as a kid and I think about things I didn't want to learn, I still learned it anyways. I still was introduced to it. And now as an adult, holy crap, I look back and I remember, holy crap, I was introduced to this as a kid. Now I'm an adult, I'm more interested because now I can relate to it more because now I'm already introduced to the idea. I didn't have to waste years and years to try and figure out what the idea is. I was already introduced to it, and now I made the connection as an adult. So now I do the research of my own as an adult. Holy crap, I figured things out. Now I know I'm getting screwed up my butthole, and I want to make a change.
Take a breath. You need some oxygen. Jeez. Absolutely. What he said. Seriously, the best thing that could happen is if you give somebody a book and they're like blown away by it, usually a preteen or a teenager in the formative years reading this book, and they have an honest reaction to it. Yeah. That is the part where you learn the most. Their perception of what they just experienced in terms of their imagination. They have to imagine whether it be atrocities or speaking a certain way or sexual act, like their reaction, like, oh my gosh, what does that mean? What does that do? Their reaction, those words out of their mouth when they react to it, tell you everything, can tell you so much about the person, about the next generation. Having them to react and then decipher what they read, writing a report or a book report, or just even having honest reaction in a classroom can tell you so much. They will learn so much about themselves and that their opinion matters, that if they respond to something and they say something about it, they have the confidence of formulating their own reaction to something, literature, whether it be historical or fictional, react to it. Mm-hmm. And they're getting they're stealing that chance for them to react to life that's happened in the past.
I want to know.
Why George Orwell? Why 1984?
I want to know why you banned these
agenda.
books. Also,
Agenda.
Yeah. I also want to know, what did you replace these books with? Because that's even bigger. Ooh. Okay. What if you replace these golden gems with a bunch of fucking garbage?
You know what I heard? This was recently this year. It was there was the whole thing was happening down in Florida, and we were hearing a lot about the books that they were banning in the Board of Education down there and stuff. Mm-hmm. There was the mouse, the graphic novel Mouse, where it depicts, it's essentially, I believe, a diary of Anne Frank, but told from a mouse that was hiding out and then ends up in Auschwitz. Mm. It's about these mice that live in Auschwitz or whatever. But it's a graphic novel to make it easier to divulge. It's a media. So they thought it was gearing to kids and whatever. Like, forget it. Not even gonna go there. But also Dr. Seuss, because of the language. You're gonna ban Dr. Seuss? The rhymes and the fun, like, exploration of syncopation and the written word. They're afraid of indoctrination. Mm-hmm. That's what it was. It makes it easy for them to talk this way, or the drawings or the characters were drawn and colored yellow or something. You're putting inference on that.
Well, as a kid, I didn't think of anything with these. They were all monsters and creatures to me. I didn't relate it to humans. I thought
they use primary colors.
Yeah.
Yellow happens to be one of them.
Yeah. The others were green. Others were purple. Others were freaking red. Like I wasn't equating them to humans. I separated them from human as far as possible.
Stubborn, smug ass equates that, and you don't want mayhap children to equate. Oh, let me tell you, they're not, because they're purer than you.
Yes.
Sometimes even, mostly, smarter than you people in the Board of Education.
Kids don't think in terms of, what's racist and what's not. I'm more superior than this person because color of their skin or cultural background, whatever. Kids don't think like that. Kids think, a kid, you like this toy? I like that toy too. Oh, this thing makes us laugh. We're going to laugh together. Like, that's all we think. Well, I'm not a kid anymore, but when I was a kid, that's how I thought. And that's how my friends thought. I was friends with all kinds. When I look back at the friends I had, there was variety. All right? I was friends with white kids, friends with black kids, friends with Asian kids, friends with Latino kids.
If you had access to them. And some places don't. Some places, they're just naturally sequestered away. They're not in the community or whatever. So how else they get it if not through a book, if not through media, or if not through traveling and going there and realizing there's other people that live on this earth that don't look or whatever like me. The sooner you realize that, the better.
They always say racism is taught, and it's true. I grew up with it, and I didn't. There's so many things about racism that I didn't understand until people explained it to me. Because I grew up, kind of fortunate in a circumstance where I was surrounded by all kinds of cultures and backgrounds. Yeah. So I never understood racism until people explained it to me, and I was like,
I saw blended families. I saw
I thought it was a thing that I thought it died out. I thought it didn't exist anymore. And I was like, rude awakening. Here you are. You're in your 20s. You're in college. And we're teaching you about this. And I'm like, what? This is still going on today? What the fuck happened? I thought we resolved it. I thought we already found the resolutions to this shit. Nope.
That's a problem with some people who don't go out and explore too. They think they live through this lens of their youth or their sequestered youth, where they think, oh, that was resolved. Luckily, you realized that, okay, nothing's ever resolved. It still lives there, waiting to be uncovered. Waiting for it to be uncovered again, whether it be racism, something bad, or even something good. It's like, society does away. It's like, oh, we're going to cover that up with dirt and whatever. But before you know it, a friggin' tree grows.
Exactly. You can't hide
Vines
it. Stop
and
hiding.
weeds.
Stop hiding. Stop hiding. Stop hiding the truth.
You talked about banning being a euphemism for burning. You know the other euphemism that they start to use for some of these books? Challenged.
Yes.
So it's like, oh, we're not going to burn them. We're going to ban them. Oh, you don't like that? Well, okay. We're going to challenge them. How are you going to challenge an idea? You're going to challenge a book? What? To a fight? To arena? What?
What's going on?
To a duel? What do you
going
mean
on?
challenge?
Doesn't make any sense.
I know what you mean.
Doesn't
You
make
wanna
any
put
sense.
Friggin' visors on and
Listen, let me tell you something, okay?
blinders.
This goes back to kind of a little bit what we were talking about in a nudity in films episode, where they were saying don't censor, okay? I was a
Yeah.
kid, okay? I was like 11 years old playing a game that was rated M for mature, okay? And that means I had to be like 17 or 18 years old or older to play it. I was 11
Not
playing it.
enforced. No one's enforcing it. They put the thing
Yeah.
on the higher shelf, on the back shelf.
Yeah.
What?
And
What do
then,
they do?
my mom gave, she was like, it's okay. He could play it. Boom.
Yeah.
Bought it. End of discussion. I'm playing it. Okay. In this game, as an 11-year-old kid, I saw, because it takes place during the Middle Ages, and it took place during a certain moment in history where there was this Middle Eastern man who was very radical with his religious ideas, right? And he thought anything that wasn't the Quran should be burnt because it was bad and it infected the soul negatively. Okay, this guy was obviously he was one of the antagonists in the story of the game, right? And so, because what he was doing was wrong, he was burning books, knowledge, and I didn't understand. The game made me understand how this was wrong. Because they basically was saying, because you as the main character, you eventually kill this guy, all right? And he basically explains, you can't hide the truth from people. When you hide the truth from people, the truth is still the truth. It'll eventually unveil itself, okay? Whether it is through the knowledge and books and people learning through the wisdom and failures of people in the past, or they don't have these books, and then, like you said, the dirt gets thrown over it, or in the case of the game, okay, the ashes of the novels are now all that's left of the wisdom. People will redo the mistakes and relearn from them.
That reminds me of like what happened kind of recently this year with Salman Rushdie, who did the Satanic Verses, and he's had been in hiding or on alert for many, many years. He wrote this like, I don't even know when it was, like 80s, 90s, the beginning of the 90s. And he's, a lot of Muslim nations, and especially those with religious leaders, want to like shut him up and put him down and ban him and ban his books from the but he got it out there, and it's because there can be no depiction of Allah in like, especially in any kind of form, whether it be written or drawn, right? And so if somebody does, then they want to attack him, they want to kill him, and so he got attacked. So that speaks to a conservative culture where things can head when you try to ban them. People get attacked, body and flesh, because of words and thoughts and ideas, right? And what you're saying about well,
this happens everywhere, right?
It happens everywhere.
Yeah,
but this happened. This is recently.
Yeah, we're using specific examples that have to do with our, what we've experienced. But this can happen anywhere by anyone. I mean, we have evangelicals here in the United States, evangelical Christians that are doing similar things like that,
and they want to try to shut people up and do all that. But you're saying about the truth and about, like, in this game, the idea, like, it was one of the biggest atrocities that they could do to when there was a lot of conquering of nations. They thought the whole idea of burning scrolls and burying them and destroying, like, the Library of Alexandria and all that stuff, and burning will erase histories and knowledge. It does to a certain extent, but the beauty is, like, right, you can have a couple of things happen. You can have this utopian idea of we're all reading books, people's reactions and art, and we're learning, or We're banning and burying it all. And then when the truth does come up, it's more, and people get angrier, and then therefore it's more forceful. And it's like, okay, we're going to learn the same thing, but through war, fighting, death, and blood. And that's unnecessary. That's just silly.
Yes. Because here's the thing, because you bring up the Library of Alexandria. The Library of Alexandria was like the epicenter of the ancient world when it came to, the maths and the science and the philosophies, knowledge in general. Okay, you had everybody
History.
going there. You had everybody going there. Egyptians, Greeks, Romans. You had people from the East, Persians, Chinese. Like you had everybody that everybody was eventually making their way. Knowledge was making their way to the Library of Alexandria. In the Library of Alexandria was a Greek guy. He was like, I don't know if he was a philosopher or a scientist. I don't know what you would classify him.
Nostradamus?
Mathematician or something. But
Pythagoras?
he discovered that the Earth was a globe thousands of years ago because he studied the way the sun would rise to the center of the sky, and he did an experiment. Okay, came up with an hypothesis. He did an experiment. The whole scientific method. Okay. He asked a philosophical question. Is the earth round or flat? Okay, because that's a common question back in the day. Okay, so he studied the way the sun traveled through the sky, and then he would study how the sun would travel through the sky the more he went south. He didn't realize the more he went south down the Nile River, down Egypt, okay, he was hitting the equator. He didn't know that, but he was noticing that the sun would get more towards the center, it would like rest more at the center of the sky the more south he went in Egypt. So he did an experiment. He set up a stick in Library Valley. He set up like a pole in Alexandria. So he marked where the shadow was when the sun was at its highest point. Marked where the shadow was. Then he did it again. He went south a little bit. He did it again, marked where the shadow was. He did it again when he was at the equator. He didn't know he was at the equator, but he was at the equator. And he marked.
No shadow.
Yeah, he marked where he set up the pole, waited for the sun to reach the highest point in the sky, saw there was no shadow. And he realized the only way that this could happen is if the earth was a globe.
Boom, math.
And that was the end of his theory. It ended up just being a theory, but he discovered it. Then Library of Alexandria
explored
gets burned. The knowledge is lost. We don't know. The corruption in the society. Eventually we figure out and confirm the answer. And we're like, look, we already figured this out thousands of years ago.
And then you about all those Roman years that they burned and killed people because Galileo and all that stuff. And there was heresy and heretic. Well, if they knew this stuff was out, they wouldn't have had all that killing. They probably wouldn't have had that. And religions wouldn't be able to take over the scientific mind of people.
Exactly.
Hey, Dios mío.
I think we made our message clear. Right?
Listen, I don't have an agenda except for read books and gain knowledge.
Exactly.
That's my agenda. What?
That's our message.
Come on.
No agenda, just a message. If you're a student and you've never read any of these books, all right, let me list them to you. Catcher in the Rye, Fahrenheit 451, To Kill a Mockingbird, The Color Purple, The Great Gatsby, 1984, Lord of the Flies, Of Mice and Men, The Outsiders, Catch-22, Brave New World, Animal Farm, Handmaid's Tale, Diary of Anne Frank. If you've never read any of those books,
pick one, read it. Go to a library.
Exactly. Write it down, read one. Eventually, if you get, if one day try to get through the whole list.
You can get these free probably in some apps that do like the Kindle and stuff. Like these, they're older books. They get them for free. Audible, you have people read them to you for free.
Exactly.
Go to a library, get your library card and explore the wonders.
Check them out. Come to your own conclusion. At the end of the day, this is just a perspective, what we have. Come to your own perspective. I think we covered it. I've been Soterios D. Lemicius.
I've been Joshua Callahan.
We've been the Gentleman's Sit Down. We hope that you have a great week. We'll catch you next week.
Peace.